Hello, my name is Anthony Tugger. I'm from the Rutherford County Extension Office. I'm going to talk to you about pollinators today and also why pollination is important. So first, we're going to get this PowerPoint started and kind of go through this as an option today. Basically, why are pollinators important? Pollinators are important because they actually transfer the male ether from to the female stigma, which actually is a goal of most living organisms, is to produce an offspring. And the offspring for plants typically is a food or flower or some other type of product that we eat. We're going to talk a little bit about some of those as well. So basically, they all do the cross pollination. The flowers get transferred and fertilized in a sort of spins with the pollen, and they produce a seed or a fruit. And basically, pollination is kind of like this illustration showing that basically moving pollen from one flower to another. So this is a good illustration here of showing how pollen is transferred from one flower to another. And there are really two types of pollination. Self-pollination is basically where the plant is self-fertilizing itself or self-pollinating itself. Some good examples of that are tomatoes, peppers, and some apples, and there are a lot of others as well. I'm just going to mention a few of them. Cross-pollination is where those plants need help, whether it's wind or whether it's bees, birds, or whatever the case may be. And some crops that does that are corn, strawberry, and wheat would be some good one as well. Now, who are our pollinators? I'm going to talk a lot about who our pollinators are and kind of list a lot of those and mention and show you some pictures of some examples at the end. Birds are very important pollinators of wildflowers in the world. Basically, there are over 2,000 species of birds that actually pollinate. One common one is hummingbird. So hummingbirds do a good job with those. And we're all familiar with bees, probably the most effective pollinators out there, because they feed from one flower to another, kind of like the example we showed. They'll basically transfer pollen to those plants. And there are over 4,000 different species of bees. And we're going to look at a few of those a little later as well. Butterflies, they're not as effective as bees, but they do move pollen between plants. Some other you want to think about are moths. Typically these, and also bats, these are some night shift workers we like to call. And basically they are nocturnal and they basically move pollen amongst plants at night as they feed on. And those are 140-some thousand species of butterflies or moths. Typically, a lot of the moths actually transfer into butterflies. So many butterflies produce a scent that's attracted to the opposite sex. So many of those scents often have a smell that flowers are attracted to each one of the plants as they fly around and move pollen throughout. So some other pollinators are beetles. They present the greatest diversity of insect population, regular flower, which include like soldier beetles or flower beetles, some of those, as they feed and chew different types of things like that. So people are calling it kind of a messy or soil pollination process, even though they're kind of destroying the plant a little bit, but they are also fertilizing the soil as they stuff falls and they eat and go back into the ground and produce a offspring and forest pollen, the soil pollinator. Flies, we don't really think about flies as being a pollinator, but they are so abundant and important for pollination as well. Even though they don't do a lot of transferring of pollen, especially when you compare them to bees, but they do have opportunity to move pollen. Some typical like the hoover fly and some of those things. There are also some pollen wasps. So we see a lot of those flying around doing different types of things. They typically do not eat insects or bite humans. So what people do have a tendency to kind of be afraid of, but they do have a tendency to move pollen as well. Wind, we talked a little bit about cross-pollination earlier, especially when we talk about corn. Like one of the crops I really think about a lot when we think about cross-pollination is corn. It's one of the big ones that's really done by wind. Pollination, and there are a lot of different, there are a few animals that do some pollination, some flying squirrels and some things of that nature, and also some other type of bats can be considered animals. So they actually move pollen from one plant to another. So what we're going to do next is basically look at a few different types of hummingbirds. Kind of generally we talk a lot of it. We generally talk about the different types of pollinators, and we're going to look at some of those. And obviously there are a lot more when we talk about birds or hummingbird. There are tons of different hummingbird. I'm just going to throw out a couple of them, like the ruby-throat hummingbird is one that's real common and easy to find. And another one I found was really the Scarlet Hawaiian honeycreeper. This is a different type of bird. I kind of like this because it's just such an attractive bird as well. And then next we're going to look at a couple of bees. Obviously, when we think about that a lot, we think about honeybees a lot of time, but this is a metallic green sweat bee. They will have a tendency to sting and bite you as well, but it is one that actually moves pollen from one plant to another. And pretty much, like we mentioned earlier, most of all the bees are very efficient. Even bumblebees and things like that have a real good opportunity to move pollen from one plant to another. Another one is a male carpenter bee. Is one that we really think about a lot. So this is very productive as well. So also we want to look at one that people are really familiar with and common with are butterflies. You know, butterflies, people plant butterfly gardens for not only for their attraction, but also for the monarch type butterflies and for the different types of butterfly. But they're also efficient in moving pollen from one plant to another, like the pale swallowtail butterfly is one. And a lot of times we want to think about some plants. I want to show this is like a monarch larvae. And there's a ton of different monarchs, butterflies as well. This is one of the monarch larvae. So a lot of times we're going to touch on a little bit why it's important to those and how the thing we want to think about in order to not treat these different types of plants. And obviously there are a couple of different types of monarch butterflies as well. So those are some of the common pollinators we want to look at. I mean, obviously you can go back and look at tons of different types of butterflies, tons of different birds, tons of other type of bees and things like that. I just want to kind of highlight a few of those where we can actually start thinking about some pollinators. And also I want to kind of conclude with some things to think about. One is we really think about pollinators, how important they are to our food supply. So we even want to think about pesticide use. So pesticide, I'm going to say pesticide in general, but really, we want to think about insecticide. It really shouldn't be used during the time plants are being flowered or flowering, because when you kill those bees or other insects that are transferring pollen, then you're kind of affecting those plants' nature of being able to produce an offspring, which are the fruit. So you might want to think about the active ingredients in the pesticide or insecticide you're using. Kind of like some spray schedule may call for doing flowering time. You want to treat something using a fungicide. So a fungicide application of something to control a disease typically won't hurt the insect, because most of them are insects. Also, that kind of deal with the chemical use that benefit pollinators. Again, you do want to try to control something like fire ants, because they do have a tendency to feed on beetles. They have a tendency to get into the bees and things like that. So they can cause some harm to a lot of them. And even if a bird nests somewhere, fire ants can have a tendency to control those. So really you want to think about the herbicides that you're using, the time you're using those, and how they will not affect the pollinators, because pollinators are so important to our food supply and things of that nature. So again, my name is Anthony Tuggle from the Rutherford County Extension Office. You can reach me at atuggle@utk.edu or atuggle@tennstate.edu. And a lot of these resources that were found was on the Forestry Service website. So I've provided you a link here that you can go look up a lot more information than I did on those. And it had a lot more different types of pollinators and also different pictures of some of those pollinators. So again, you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the program. If you have any questions or call, feel free to give me a call at 615-898-7710 at the Rutherford County Extension Office. Thank you.